Nice. Sweet love, and you're calling my name. I feel no shame on love. Sweet love. Hey, y'all, how y'all doing? Happy Thursday, everybody. Child, I want to try this, mm, what do you call it? The vertical live again. I like it. I'm getting a kick of it. So I did my vertical. Hey, Key. I did me a vertical live yesterday, and I said, well, let me try one today, right? Because I just want to come on for a few minutes, actually, and talk about something that I was thinking about, right? So I'm sitting here, not really much to do on the internet, and not much going on the beef sector. Looked at it a little bit last night. Looked at what you call it, YouTube cameras this morning. And as I'm listening to YouTube cameras this morning, as well as I listened a little bit of Ness, right? So I want to talk about ageism in the beef sector as well as toxic masculinity because I find it very interesting. So thank you. Yeah, y'all please double tap the screen and hit the like button. Thank y'all. And so here's the thing, ladies, right? So I was listening to a little bit of Ness last night, and she was talking about, Bertha May and me, our live, right? And so thanks for the heart, guys, right? Now we know that we have women over here of all certain ages, right? And mostly, I think there's a few in their 20s, but there's a lot more women in their like 30s and 40s, and like me in their 50s. There's even some ladies in their 60s and 70s. This is all types of ages, right? So when I'm reading my metrics or whatever in the studio, the age group. Hey, Dabney, if I didn't say that. Hey, Miss LA. And so the people that are mostly watching my videos are from 35 and above, right? And so I was like, that's very interesting. And it got me thinking about the word geriatric, right? So, like I said, I'm getting ready to listen to Ness last night because she had came in the vertical live yesterday and asked me if she could use, a portion of my video. And of course, I said no, because, I don't do reaction videos on anybody else's, and I don't, really don't want nobody doing, any reaction videos on my audio. You can come over and listen to the video yourself. Do like me, talk about it, right? No disrespect. This is how it was, right? Nothing bad, nothing mean. It's just business, right? So anyway, she's over there talking and she's calling Bertha May and myself, Hattie May, aka the Oracle, the geriatrics. Okay, and I said, you know what? That's very, very interesting. You got a woman that's, and this ain't no shade, it's just an observation, right? Hey, True Black Cheetah, you got a female that is at least 35 and knocking on 40's door at least, right? Even though she says she's 29, she's probably knocking on 40's door. She looked like she in her 30s, late 30s, if not even 40's already, right? And so I'm almost 50, and thank you, and I'm loving it. I still look and feel young, and I'm getting it. Hey, I heard that, Miss LA. So anyway, and then you know what, Miss LA, I'm glad you bring that up. I'm gonna come back to that, right? So anyway, and I'm thinking, okay, that's very interesting. That's a very interesting comment, right? And I said, you got a whole bunch of women in this age group, let's say 30s and 40s, right? And they're calling the women in their 50s geriatric. I find that interesting because they say some people say that after you reach the age of 25 and you're not married, or you haven't, started a family or whatever, then you're considered an old maid, right? Now we know that's not true because you're still living your best life when you're 25 years old, but it wasn't always that way. You know what I mean? So you got a lot of and then like I said, let me fast forward to YouTube cameras this morning. So she's doing a review of Chicken Head Pizarro over there, uh, and her old they old and they this that and the other, and then Chickenhead Pizarro had the nerve to say, well, I had a dead for JJ. And I'm thinking, girl, don't you realize you about 30 years old? You 30 years too late for that read, but okay, girl. And if you are a mommy, like you say you are, which I be hoping and believing that she's not, like seriously, because, oh my God, this goes to my topic today. Like, for you to be so trifling of a mother, right? You would have been raised or lived in a household with a trifling mother, right? And see that brings me to my issue, right? So anyway, we're gonna get back to that. I'm on limited time here, and so anyway, I found that interesting. As it comes when it comes, when it comes down to ageism. But let's get back to these 30 and 40 years old. So like I said, I'm down there in YouTube cameras chat this morning, and she's discussing what was going on, and something was said, and then I said the nerve of these dusty hoes that's in their 30s and 40s calling people old. Okay, and I got to thinking about that. Hello, Miss O. They crazy. I'm 68 and still strutting and turning heads. Right, Marvelous. And see, the thing is, I said it yesterday. It's not about quantity of life, meaning it's not really about how long you live. It's about quality of life. It's about how you live, right? How well you live, right? And I don't mean materialistically. I mean physically and spiritually, and socially and emotionally, you know? That's what I mean by that. See, that's my issue. You got a whole bunch of these women over here in their 30s and 40s, right? But then they want to call us so-called geriatric women. And we in our 50s, right, or even 60s, or even 70s, right? The thing is, they don't even have a life, right? They may have a job. Now, you know what I find interesting? It's a whole bunch of them around here that I've noticed. That how you gonna be in your 30s and 40s and you just now getting your first apartment, right? And if you have children, which is fine if you're a single parent, but are you properly raising those children, right? But see, you can't properly raise your child if you were never properly raised yourself, which goes back to quality of life, right? Now, you guys know I've said a couple of times that a lot of these heifers is unkept and unkempt, right? Like they have no couth. It's like they were raised in a barn. Okay, they have no respect for themselves because if you listen to the verbiage of a lot of them, the way that they say, the way that they carry themselves even online, right? Because all we have online is the words that come out of our mouth, right? Now, even though I would get on here and cuss yourself out, cuss you slap out, it's some stuff that I will not say and some things I will not do. You know why? Because I refuse to compromise my moral compass. See, I have a moral compass because I was raised by by parents that had a moral compass, right? So I learned to be strong from my mom and my dad. But I got my self-esteem and my strong, willingness, my strong willfulness, pretty much from my father and my grandmama, right? Now my mama, she was the one that was always, saying, you never go out like this or you never go out like that. You always carry yourself like this or you always carry yourself like that. And when you a kid, you really don't understand. But when you become an adult, you realize that, oh, thank God my mama raised me to, do A, B, C, and D, right? Because those things really come in handy, right? So when it comes to these 30 and 40s and even 20 years old on here, you can tell that they didn't have that type of upbringing, and that's unfortunate, right? So when you get women of a certain age, like many of us 50 or above, right, which causes ageism, right? You're right, Anthony. I'm getting it to it, right? I have noticed that there has been disrespectful attitude towards the elderly, right? Well, see, yeah, a lot of us are not even elderly, like right? Like I'm in my 50s, right? I've been to hey, you two comments. I've been through years and years of menopause. That's over with now. I don't have a period anymore. You know what I mean? It's just me and my husband. You know, most of the time, I got the nieces and nephews. You know what I mean, and they keep me busy or whatever. My husband retired me 10 years ago. Do you see what I'm saying? It's things of that nature, right? So you got these 30s and 40 years old calling these women in their 50s, and they knocking on 50 door, geriatric, right? And then they say they bitter and they old and they this, that, and the other. And I said, you know what? They are really talking about themselves. They are the ones that are bitter and lonely and very, very mean, right? And a lot of them have no wisdom. They have no common sense. But that goes back to the way that you were raised, right? You got a lot of them that probably had really good parents, but they didn't want to listen. That's how you got some of them and then you got some of that's been through so much in their life, much more of a hard life than some of us, at quote unquote geriatrics, have ever been through. You got people that's been on drugs, like I said, just now getting in a stable place to live in their 30s and 40s, uneducated in their 20s. It's just really a sad, sad situation. Right? That's right, Marvelous. My mama told me never leave the house without earrings and some lipstick. That's right. Girl. Right. But you can't be out in public unkept. Thank you, child. Right. You are absolutely right. You are Marvelous. I know that's right. My daddy wouldn't let us walk around the house without shoes. Walk around the house and not outside or anything because he said our feet would get hard and rough and big. Okay, even to this day, I don't walk around the house barefoot. I always got on some, house slippers or something like that, right? It's just little things like that, that your elders taught you so that you wouldn't be unkept. You got a lot of people that go outside, a lot of these girls, that go outside, they have these what do you call it, the sleeve caps on their head. And honey, it's part of an outfit. Okay? Child, I wish I would never, okay? I would never. Right? I was like, Lord have mercy. But but then they turned around and called us geriatrics. See, it's some things that you can learn from a woman that's not unkept that you clearly didn't learn from your mama. All right? You can tell that by the way that they speak, right? Some of the words, some of the gutter trash words that they use, right? I mean, and then even some of what kills me is the way that they speak about their own, intimate parts, should I say, right? Some of the stuff that come out of these heifers' mouth is just absolutely uncouth, right? And so, I just don't understand. But anyway, I was thinking about that, right? And as far as us so-called geriatric women, we've lived our lives to the point that, and I realize that we're in a different world at this day and age, but sometimes you really need to take a hard look at some of these women if you're in your 30s and 40s, and you see them living a different type of lifestyle than you. Okay, you in your 30s and 40s, but they in their 50s and 60s, right? You got to take time to just stop and look at them one day on the sidewalk and see how they carry themselves as opposed to the way that you carry yourself. You see what I'm saying? And like I said, I'm not talking about materialistic. You can have the best job in the world. You can have a 6-figure job, right? But when you go home at night, what do you have? You sitting there by yourself, okay? Now they tell me these days it's harder to find a heterosexual man than it is a needle in a haystack. And I can tell that is true because I see online some women really are compromising, with some of these men that say they're bisexual and then they lust after men that are clearly gay. That's unfortunate, and it's really a different world, you know. But even then, even though it's probably harder to find what you want, you should never compromise yourself, you know. You should never put yourself in that type of situation, right? And it's unfortunate to me, right? So I just don't understand. I was thinking about that. I was thinking about that word ageism, you know, as it pertains to, quality versus quantity, right? So, hey, how you doing? How you doing, Creole? Hey, everybody that came in, right? And so, Grand Rising, Miss Olivia, will you come back and talk about 47 desegregation? What do you mean, Creole? What's going on? Child, probably Trump's got something else going on. Let me know, and I'll try to look it up. And so, anyway, y'all please tap the screen twice and hit the like button if you don't mind. I realize this is out of the ordinary for the beef sector, but I just really want to touch on it real quick. And let's talk about, since I've said, but anyway, let me wrap it up when it comes to ageism, right? You got some women my age and older. Like I said, I'm in my 50s, right? You got some women my age and older though that they just get older. They don't get wiser, right? So if you in your 20s, 30s, or 40s, you always want to get wiser. You just don't want to get older because getting older is inevitable, right? But you want to pray for a spirit of discernment, right? You want to pray for wisdom, right? So that you won't go throughout your whole life with the same type of mentality. I have seen women older than me in this beef sector that are unkept and unkempt, right? It amazes me. Now, one prime example, something else I was thinking about is all those older women, I won't call them geriatrics, but the older women my age and older that are lusting after a certain fruit in the sector, right? Honey, it seemed like they're giving up their life savings to this certain fruit, and this certain fruit ain't even thinking about them, right? But they don't realize that what they're dealing with is toxic masculinity, right? Because this toxic masculinity don't even respect or like them. It's simply using them, right? So he's writing an executive order to undo the segregation ban and put play. I know, Creole. I've seen that. Absolutely. I'll come back and talk about it. I've seen that. I was like, wow, okay. But you know what? It won't be like it was, so it never can go back to that. So let him do his darndest, okay, child? And mostly older women supporting. Exactly. And I think a lot of the women, I don't know if they're bored, maybe they're empty nesters, if they have a husband, maybe they not happy, maybe he not there no more, maybe he passed away. I don't know what it was, but like I said, that goes to show you they're not very wise, right? And that those are the women that get older but they don't get wiser, right? Because you got some women that go throughout their whole life making bad choices in men, right? And you see a lot of that going on over here, and I find it very interesting, very very interesting, right? Child, we heard old girl over there the other night telling me something. I never went against you, and you don't support the people that really care about you, and you ain't got to hear nothing else from me. And I was like, child, this is the internet. You are too involved, but the algorithm has really done something to a lot of people, right? Now we know that the algorithm is really not good when it comes to young people. And I'm talking about young people, especially children. I'm talking about the children that are under 20 years old, the teenagers, right? A lot of them, some of them, take themselves up out of here because of something they seen online. And that's so sad. But honey, this algorithm has done something to some older people as well. And you would think they would be wise enough to realize that, hey, this is just an entertainment application, right? But when you start giving away your life savings and doing everything you can online for this one person, this is cult mentality, right? That means you have a weak mind. That means you didn't grow in wisdom. You just simply grew. Do you see what I'm saying? It just seemed like you got older. You didn't get older and wiser. You just simply got older. And that's unfortunate, right? And that also goes to ageism. And as far as the toxic masculinity part goes, you got a lot of these males on here that deal in toxic masculinity, right? Now, if you over there supporting a male, and then you supporting them, and you comparing them to your husband or your dream man in your mind, or your son or whatever you telling yourself, right? The first time you hear him speak to another woman in a derogatory manner, don't you realize that is toxic masculinity, and he's also speaking about you? You see what I'm saying? Take that fruit over there. We seen that fruit run from two men, two fights, right? Then turn around and say, it ain't no beef going on right now. But you ran from two men. But then you turn right around and dog out a woman on your right hand woman's panel, right? So you got this woman, she online with you all night, but you dogging out and disrespecting her friend. But you scared to do that to the man. Okay? I heard about deadbeat Umar Johnson. People should have realized he wasn't no good years ago. I don't even see why is he even still the topic of discussion? Umar Johnson, child. Y'all please double tap the screen to get the like button going. So anyway, that's one part of toxic masculinity. Like I said, and it's part of growing older and wiser instead of just simply growing older, right? And I see all this going on online, and I be thinking, are they for real? Maybe they just acting, or something. Maybe it's not real, because I'm like, surely these women of a certain age ain't this obsessed with the algorithm, but they really are. And I be like, wow, okay, right? So, and we know that we got a lot of the older women that don't like me on here. You know why? Because those are the women that got older and didn't get wiser, okay? And then a lot of people don't like to hear the truth, right? So, but I will never stop telling my truth. You got a lot of older women that go along to get along. I ain't never seen nothing like it. They got themselves tied up in a certain group. They can't move the way they want to move. They can't talk the way they want to talk. I ain't never seen nothing like just to get along with people online, just to be a part of something online. I'm like, are you serious? Are you kidding me? But anyway, as far as toxic masculinity, another thing I noticed as it pertains to toxic masculinity in the beef sector, because that's what we're talking about. And we, like I said, we get a lot of women over here that support these men more than they support women, no matter what, no matter how these men treat them or what, and they overlook the things that come out of their mouths, right? You have a lot of women that want to put certain monikers on other women, and they know that it's not true. Let me give you an example. So you always got uh, uh, a piece of junk food, okay? Because I'm really trying not to say no names. A piece of junk food, a very popular pepperoni piece of junk food. I always calling people mammies and male identified, right? Well, now I seen that parasite last night sitting on that piece of fruits channel over there, trying to maintain relevance when that piece of pepperoni don't even like that piece of fruit, but because it's a parasite, it's going to do it, right? And also the nerve of it supposed to be married and calling somebody male identified when you on here, you supposed to be having all these online husbands and stuff, which is essentially disrespecting your own husband. See, that goes to unkept and unkempt and just uncouth, plain out uncouth. Right? So like I said, we got a lot of examples around here, right? So anyway, I just found it interesting. I had to say that on the side, right? So here's another thing that pertains to toxic masculinity. We heard the disrespect. Now, see, the disrespect don't bother me. Because if you talk crazy to me, I'm going to talk crazy to you. Okay? And a lot of the women, more so than the men, don't know how to deal with that. It really ruffles their feathers, right? But if you disrespect me, I'm a different type of woman. I'm going to disrespect you right back. Okay? And I don't care how deep the bass in your voice is, or how even how high the soprano in your voice is. It don't matter to me. But you got a lot of women that don't do that sort of thing. Do you see what I'm saying? And it's unfortunate. I purposely changed my algorithm. Escapism is okay. Yeah, for a moment. Oh, but completely avoiding reality can be detrimental to your. That's true, Wildcard. I agree. That's true. Everybody deserves a little escapism, but you shouldn't get overly involved or overly invested, you know. And you got really a lot of young people and old people letting the algorithm, which is escapism, set them on a different path. Okay, and it's unfortunate, right? And so anyway, let's talk about toxic masculinity. So we know about the disrespect, right? Now, if you big now for me in my mind, if you big enough to give a lick, you big enough to take a lick, right? So if you don't start nothing, there won't be nothing, right? So if I felt like I couldn't stand up to these males around her, I simply wouldn't say anything to them. It ain't like that for me. I can come at you harder, than you can come at me simply because I am a female, okay? And my mouth is real crazy, okay? So anyway, here's the thing that I find very interesting. Let me give you an example. So I think was it last week? I was on somebody's panel, and I had this image right here up, and I put this image up today for a reason, right? So I had this image right here up, and that guy, what is his name, Talent, said, "Why you got that picture up? Don't you need an older picture?" And I was like, "Huh? It's a thumbnail, right? It's an avatar, right?" And so I was like, "Is this fool trying to insult me? Am I supposed to feel some kind of way that he's calling me old in a roundabout way?" Because here's the thing. Now, see, that was toxic masculinity, right? But here's the thing. Men are very visual, right? So because they're very visual, they assume that the woman is going to be offended if you say something about their looks. Now, that happens all over the beef sector, right? With the gay men, with the straight men. That's toxic masculinity, right? And a lot of these women, it really do be phasing them, right? Don't phase somebody like me. I know exactly who I am. All right, I ain't never asked for nobody's acceptance or oh, please think I'm beautiful. No, not me, not my world, right? And so I got a good little kiki out of that. And I'm thinking, but you try so hard to conceal what you look like and who you are, right? The nerve of you. Okay. The nerve of you, because here you are, and this is what toxic, right? Not about what he said, but I got to thinking about his livelihood, right? So here you are, supposedly a heterosexual man. You have not started your family. You in probably in your 30s or 40s. You have not started a family. You do not have children. You do not have anybody to take care of but yourself. And so that means you're old and bitter as well. You are not even doing what you are supposed to do. And you have to ask yourself why. Okay? Why? You got all of these heterosexual female women out here in the world. You don't went with one or two of them online. Okay? You went with Sassy. Sassy don't have no kids. She a single female. You a single man. But, okay, everybody don't click, right? Number one, why don't you have a family? What does it say about you? And why are you so bitter towards women, especially women of your own race? Do you have mommy issues? And see, that's a large part of toxic masculinity too. They have mommy issues, right? And because they have mommy issues, they have those gay and straight, those spiral into women issues, right? And so that's why they have so much toxicity towards women, right? Now, whether you are gay or straight, and then what's more unfortunate to me when it comes to ageism in men, you got men like Talent, and then you got men my age, in their 40s or 50s, gay or straight. They don't even have a family, you know. But you always got something to say derogatory about a woman. Why don't you have a family? Y'all ever ask yourself that? Why are there so many, single men, whether you heterosexual or and then if gay is so much woohoo somewhere over the rainbow, why at a certain age are so many of them alone? So you done got this certain age, right? Hetero and gay, and you sitting there in the house by yourself. You don't have a family. A family that you created is what I mean, right? And so I find it very sad. I find it very interesting, as well. And there is a reason why, in my opinion, you see so much bitterness and so much anger, going on, in this little sector right here. And it's because of loneliness. And it's because of men or women aren't doing what the Lord intended for them to do, which is procreate. Okay? Which is build yourself a family. Right? So when it comes to ageism and toxic masculinity, especially in the sector, and then we ain't even gonna talk about mental health issues around here, right? You really have to sit back sometime and take a look at what's really going on around here. And that's what I want to do today, y'all. I really just want to bring that to y'all attention. Why are so many, especially men, sitting around here with no families? No families at all. You ain't built no type of family for yourself at all. Now, I'm not talking about your parents, your sisters and brothers. I'm talking about you're supposed to have your own family unit. And you know why you're mean and bitter and toxic? Because you know you are not doing what the Lord intended for you to do, whether you want to admit it or not. And that's the same thing for a whole lot of women, you know. And so I don't know what type of psyche that is or what that does, really for a man. But you have to, because they have to have, see, women, we know as women, we have an internal clock, right? You notice that too? We have an internal clock, right? So at a certain point in time, whether we want to or not, we're going to start thinking about a family. It's just inevitable. You can't. It's just gonna happen, right? Gonna start thinking about a family, and sometimes you are blessed, when it comes to making that family, and sometimes you are not. But say you are not blessed, and we have a lot of women in the sector that don't have kids, right? For whatever reason, I'm one of them, right? But what you can do, yes, it's called nesting. You're right about that. Cause see, my grandmama told me when I realized that I couldn't have children of my own. She said, "Baby, when it comes to women like you, don't feel disheartened. It just means that you are supposed to be mother to a whole nation of children, right? A whole lot of children, right?" And it took me a long time to understand what my grandmama was trying to tell me. Turns out she was right. Okay. I done been privileged to be involved in a lot of children's lives. In my family, outside of my family, and hope that I made a difference, right? But when it comes to some of these women around here, you can see that they never really had any a positive role model when it comes to women or men. You got a lot of women that have daddy issues. They didn't have a father, or their father never really interacted in their lives. And that's unfortunate. You got a lot of issues going on. But what you got to do is you never should let that type of trauma hold you back or keep you from getting better in your world or doing better. Like I said, I'm always advocating counseling, therapy, anything you got to do to be a better you. Anything you have to do to be a better you, I advocate and I advise you to do it, right? But what you did, but then one thing, then another thing we got going on around here is people still using YouTube for therapy. Now I have been saying this for years, and y'all know I have. YouTube is not therapy, okay? Just cause you online, it don't mean you can get online and tell your life story. I mean, you can if you want to, but really should you? Because people just gonna use your trauma against you, right? That's what therapy is for. Okay? And you can do therapy online. You don't have to do it somewhere like this because this ain't it. This ain't the place for it. Okay? You got people running around here cat piss crazy. Okay? Ooh, Charlie, don't even realize it. Or maybe they do realize it. Excuse me about the cough, y'all. I had a cold long time ago. And I got everything got going except for the cough, child. I don't even understand it. That didn't even happen to me. I was talking to somebody yesterday and they said the same thing. Hey, Miss B. Hey, everybody that came in. I like this vertical thing. But anyway. And plus, I didn't want to fire up a stream, yo. You know, again, this is a lazy way right here, right? It ain't lazy, but it's just a lot quicker. Uh, when you don't want to go through the steps of the stream, especially for a conversation like this. You know what I mean? It is, right? And child, I even hate to think about it. Anna, Inanna, Anna. I know I'm butchering your name. I'm sorry, but it's a beautiful name. And ain't no telling what's going around, honey. They don't tell us nothing in this world no more. Okay, be going outside scared to breathe half the time, child, because you don't know what you're breathing in, right? But anyway, y'all, I just want to talk about that. I just find it very interesting. And then what made me think about toxic masculinity was I looked at a little bit of Jay Wilson last night, right? And the guys were up there. They were talking about the Castro and Tommy situation and all of this and all of that was going on. I really couldn't follow a lot of it, but I was like, oh my God, you got all these black men up here on this panel, right? Sitting here going back and forth, really basically about each other, you know. You got Jay Wilson talking about he going to be 55 tomorrow in a couple of days, you know, and you sitting there alone in your life. What I mean by alone is you never built yourself a family, right? You got somebody like Tim Blaine, and he is older, right? He is older for real, sitting there by himself, never built himself a family, right? So when they got the nerve to open their mouth and say and call a woman old or a woman this, that, and the other, blah, 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 and blah, 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 you need to put it right back on them, okay? You put it right back on them. Because they are just as miserable as you. If you are living the same type of lifestyle that they are living, and what I mean by that is alone, okay? Is alone, right? Is alone, never was strong enough, and always too toxic to build a family for yourself. All right? Just mean, old, and bitter. That's all. That's all. The young ones and the old ones. It's very unfortunate, right? Very unfortunate. And that's just toxic masculinity, and we know that it goes deeper than that. We got men laying their hands on other men laying their hands on women. We done heard about it around here, all type of nonsense going on, and we hear about it because people bring it to YouTube. Downright unsafe. You got men and women that are stalkers, and I don't even think they realize they're stalkers or they can help themselves from stalking, especially the bone carriers and the people that look up your life and want to know what's going on in your actual life offline. And you got too much time on your hands, honey. Go outside and get yourself a life. Build yourself a family. See, family don't even always have to be blood, right? You don't have to be online being an incel or a film cell, right? Why are you 20 and 30 years old and you spend all day long and all night online instead of out living your best life? But then you want to turn around and call somebody that's done lived their life, lived their whole entire life, okay? The whole entire young life outside, okay? Sitting here now, not alone, all right? Done raised their family. And now ready to raise the grands, okay? So you got to think about stuff like that. You got parents that don't even have their children for whatever reason. And honestly, some of them don't need their kids, okay? And then you got parents on here that say they got kids that clearly don't need them, okay? Clearly don't need them. But that goes back to not being raised yourself. We talked about that earlier, and I'm going to leave it alone. But anyway, I just wanted to give you guys something to think about. And as far as that toxic masculinity, um, it's unfortunate as well. A lot of them are toxic because they're bitter, alone, and angry. Okay, and they are supposed to lead, and they've never led for whatever reason, right? A lot of them want to be you. That's unfortunate. That's toxic masculinity as well. In case you didn't know, because you are not doing what God called you to do. That is the root of your toxicity, whether you know it or not. That is the root cause of it, in my opinion, honestly. And so, yeah. But anyway, y'all, I hope you guys have a nice day. Y'all check out my product tag bag, okay? Ladies and gentlemen. You know, I got some anti-aging creams and stuff like that. See, that's part of keeping yourself up. You use your creams, you know about your creams. You got young people on here that's dusty and dirty, and they want they want to call you geriatric, but they look a mess. Okay, like I said, they done been through some stuff in life that you ain't never been through. Done been on the street and doing whatever they got to do to scratch and survive. Right? There's just a whole lot of nonsense and just come online out uncouth coughing and from marijuana and you just drenched in alcohol. And what do you think that does to your body, honey? Okay. Oh Lord, you better hope you get my age, okay? But all that stuff you putting inside, all those toxins you putting inside yourself, okay? Just really need to think about stuff. They don't think about stuff these days, okay? I'm like, ooh, Lord. And then you say you got your youth, but honey, you ain't doing nothing with it. Clearly, you only young for a moment. You wasting time. Just wasting time. But anyway, let me stop this call. I'm about to call a back chair. Let me get off here, y'all. It's time for me to go, honey. I just start getting my phone calls. Okay, I don't know if y'all can hear me, but I hope y'all can. But anyway, I enjoyed this conversation. Y'all click the tap, double tap the screen for me and get me a couple of more likes. I know that this is not something that we regularly talk about over here, but y'all, it was on my mind, and I want to talk about it today. So I'm gonna get off here. You guys be safe, okay? I love you in the way that Christ loves you, and I'm gonna talk to y'all later. Bye bye. Peace.